Believers, listen up. The live stream I made about Joseph and Daniel, let me clarify something. As believers, we ought to be informed so that we can inform the world. What happens now is that a lot of us don't have the proper perspective on the saints that were used in the Old and New Testament, and this lack of knowledge is exploited by the enemy to blackmail us. For example, you heard the classic accusation of, if God is love, then why so much war and violence in the Old Testament? Well, such things have been refuted and explained already, but because many believers don't have proper knowledge, or they have been misinformed, the enemy can use that as a leverage over us to trick us into sponsoring him. Because that's the only thing the enemy has. Tricks to get us into agreement with him. Because the enemy cannot exterminate us, because he needs us to keep this world system going. So, for example, David has often been accused of being a snake, being, a lowlife, a talk, whatever. Yes, David had errors. David had mental issues, or better, emotional issues that came from his youth. It was only with Bathsheba that he went into the error. He went into error on multiple occasions, but despite that, he was a man after God's own heart who invested in God's people, despite the unthankful attitudes of the Israelite people. And despite his own flaws and his own errors, he continued. He really walked by faith. So, that's David. But if you don't know the proper context of all that happened, people can use that as excuse to bash God's authority. Now, about Moses, about Elijah. Many people claim that Elijah and Moses failed, but when you look at the context, Moses not failed because God anointed him to bring the Israelites out of Egypt and to guide them through the wilderness. God never said that it was Moses' purpose to lead them into the promised land. So, when Moses got a temper and hit the rock twice, and the Lord said, because of this you will not enter the promised land, it was really God telling him, it's all right. Enough. You've done much already for these people. These people become a weight onto you. They cause you to malfunction. You're going to rest. Because God intended all along for Joshua to take over. So, with Elijah successfully, on his own initiative, which God promoted, challenged Ahab and Jezebel. And because of that, the believers that lived there got relief from the violence that was haunting them. And now Elisha received a double anointing, double of what Elijah had. And Elisha remained for at least a half century in the northern kingdom of Israel, and he was active in the world. So yet Elijah building the foundation, Elisha continuing in the foundation. So did Elijah fail? No. Elijah became suicidal, thinking he failed. He even asked the Lord to take his life. But here's the thing. God did not tell him, hey, Elijah, don't worry, man. It's just part of my plan. You're doing this job, and it will continue by Elisha. God did not tell him that. God allowed him to feel suicidal and told him, go and anoint Elisha. Because God saw that Elijah operated on his own initiative with God, which God praised, and he knew that Elisha would want to do double what Elijah did. God already foresaw this, so God orchestrated in such a way that Elijah would build the foundation, Elisha would continue. So never did Elijah fail. But Elijah thought he failed. We read it in the Old Testament, and even the pastor said, you see, Elijah failed. So you as a believer, beware that you don't fail, or they begin to blackmail you with fear. That's why it's important to have a proper anthropological, sociological, psychological, and historical assessment of the people in the Old and New Testament. so that we as believers are well informed and we are able not only to refute the accusations and the tricks of the enemy, but so that we can benefit fully from the testimony of both the Old and New Testament in our daily walk. That's why I made very plain. I do not look down on Daniel to feel good about myself, no. I'm just pointing out, this believer operated in fear. This believer enabled violence. This believer, he betrayed his own people, even though he was loyal in revealing the prophecies. And look at this. He got a blueprint of human history, namely that the Greeks would become dominant till the end. So why didn't Daniel use all this knowledge to become more ambitious for his people? Knowing that first he would have the Medo-Persian Empire, then the Greeks. Why didn't he push to put the Israelites in the top condition as God wanted them to be? Daniel wanted to be accepted by Babylonian society, so he got accepted by the world, and the world later threw him in a lion's den after 80 years of loyal service. God knew that Daniel would become that way, but God anointed him anyway, just to show us, if you concede walking by faith to please the enemy, that is going to happen. Eventually they'll drop you, eventually they'll sabotage you, they will, how would I say it in a polite and good way, they will discard you like trash. That's what they do. So in no way am I bashing Daniel, nor any of the other things. Whatever error Daniel had, it's dealt with at Calvary, at the resurrection. He'll be with us on new earth forever, just like David, Jeremiah, and all the other ones. Listen, believers, this is not the time to be ignorant. We ought to be fully aware of what we're dealing with. So, I'll keep on making videos and live streams, keep on agreeing with Christ, and look at the bigger picture. Be at peace.